All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. After the Damian Lillard trade rumor mill heated up recently, the seven-time NBA All-Star has a new basketball home. After 11 years with the Portland Trail Blazers, where he is the franchise's all-time leader in points scored, Lillard is now headed to the Milwaukee Bucks. It took a three-team deal today for Lillard to join the Bucks, as the Phoenix Suns are receiving Grayson Allen, Yusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson, while the Blazers are getting Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Tumani Kamara, an unprotected first round pick from Milwaukee in 2029, while also having the ability to swap first rounders with the Bucks in both 2028 and 2030. Now, this comes on the heels or when training camps are about to begin around the National Basketball Association. And of course, it's going to take some time for the new look Bucks to definitely gel. But at the end of the day, the Bucks were definitely trying to keep Giannis happy. Of course, Giannis has put it out there before he signs any extension. He wants to make sure that the Bucks want to go out there and keep that championship commitment. Obviously, Giannis was not happy with the fact that Mike Budenholzer got fired after their disappointing postseason trip this past spring. But nonetheless, you bring in somebody the caliber of Damian Lillard to play alongside Giannis. I think the big man should be happy with this. Now, even with that said, let's be realistic. The only thing that you can really say that kept Milwaukee from winning the NBA championship in each of the last 2 years, you go back to 2022, a knee injury to Chris Middleton, because even with that injury to Middleton, the Bucks still took the Celtics to 7 games in the Eastern Conference semis. And I really think that Milwaukee could have repeated that year had Middleton been healthy. And then, of course, the Giannis injury this year in the playoffs in the first round against the Heat really changed the dynamic of that series. But now that you're bringing in Damian Lillard, and now that you're saying farewell to Drew Holiday, as well as obviously got to break in a new head coach and Adrian Griffin. Did the Bucks tinker with their sauce too much? And I say that because when they got Drew Holiday, he was that guy to help Giannis get over that championship hump. Because obviously, before Drew Holiday got there, Milwaukee, they made some deep playoff runs, but they always came up short. And Drew Holiday was that solidifying force, that professional, that point guard, that legitimate point guard, if you will, not just a point guard by title, who went out there and solidified things for the Bucks at both ends of the floor. So, I mean, you're giving up that to get Damian Lillard, and I'll say it like this: Damian Lillard is the if you're comparing him and Drew Holiday, obviously Damian Lillard is the better scorer, but Drew Holiday is the better point guard. So it's going to be interesting to see how this dynamic works for the Bucks. But I will say this: you've now gotten yourself another proven finisher if you're Milwaukee. Dame is a guy that when he gets in the zone, just give him the ball and get out of his way. And you think about Dame. Dame put up some big numbers the last couple of years in Portland. Obviously, it wasn't like that when his career first began there because the offense went primarily through LaMarcus Aldridge. And when Aldridge left, obviously things changed. Dame was a number one, number two, and number three option, but obviously that's not going to be the case now. Dame is going to play off of Giannis, and I think Dame is going to not have a problem with that because at this point of his career, he wants that championship. You think about it, seven-time All-Star, like I alluded to several minutes ago, a member of the NBA's 75th anniversary team. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He has everything on his resume except that championship. And obviously, he feels playing alongside Giannis now is going to give him that opportunity to get said championship. And if you're Giannis, playing with Dame is going to give you that opportunity to get more championships. So for first year head coach Adrian Griffin, he's got to go out there and make it work. And Adrian Griffin has stepped right in to the pressure cooker, and he knew that already because he took over for Mike Budenholzer, and he took over a championship caliber team. Now, when you bring in a guy with the accolades that Damian Lillard has, obviously those championship aspirations have gone up to the next level. Now, on the flip side, for the Portland Trailblazers, they're definitely in rebuild mode. But I do like what they did here because I really thought that Portland should have gone out there and tried to make this trade happen prior to the NBA draft rather, and just get it out the way and try to get some assets back for this coming year squad. That didn't happen, but the Blazers still understood the importance of getting this done prior to training camps beginning because all you were going to do is have the media start asking Damian Lillard questions. All you're going to do is have the media ask Chauncey Billups questions, the other players on the team, the general manager, and it was going to keep cascading into the season, and it was going to be a distraction. So credit to the Portland Trailblazers for making the move because I've always said, it does not make sense to have a player on your team who no longer wants to be there. And that was the case with Damian Lillard. But also credit to the Portland Trailblazers because hey, not only did they trade Damian Lillard, but then they also got something in return and they got something that they wanted as far as helping them go forward. You look at it, obviously, with the picks, you don't know what those picks are going to turn out to be. It's several years down the road. We have to wait and see. But then also bringing in a guy like Drew Holiday, and I really think that Drew Holiday's probably going to be in Portland for a cup of coffee, and I'll allude to that very shortly. But then with the three-team deal, you got DeAndre Ayton, an all-star caliber center coming in from the Phoenix Suns. Now you're very high on the young man you took in the first round this year, Scoot Henderson, and then of course when Damian Lillard was injured last season, Anthony Simons really started to make a name for himself. So going forward this is something for Portland to build off of. And obviously, Portland has never, and this is no disrespect to the city of Portland, but it's never really been a hotbed for free agents to go play there. So obviously, if you're the Trailblazers organization, you got to do it through the draft and you got to do it through trades. And this scenario right here for the Portland Trailblazers, I really think gives them the opportunity to build going forward. And if they do decide to trade Drew Holiday this season, which I do believe they will, you have a scenario where you can get even more back as you're looking to build with what could be potentially your young core. So I definitely like what the Portland Trailblazers did there. On the Sun side, the Phoenix Suns picked up some much needed depth because you go back to last year, the Suns gave up a lot to get Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets, to team him with Devin Booker. And then you go back to this summer, and the Suns gave up a lot to get Bradley Beal from the Washington Wizards. Now you get some depth. Now you get yourself a big in Yusuf Nurkic that can play off of KD, that can play off of Devin Booker, that can play off of Bradley Beal because he's a guy, he does not need the basketball in his hands to be effective. He can also go out there and get you some boards. And I think he's going to have an impact. And I think Grayson Allen is going to have an impact for this Suns team as well. Because remember, the championship expectations are very high, especially now that Matt Ishbia is the majority owner of these Phoenix Suns. So at the end of the day, you ask yourself, who won this trade? And I think this is a scenario where this trade benefits each team involved. The Bucks get themselves another finisher. The Bucks get themselves another star as they're in win now mode. The Phoenix Suns get depth as they're in win now mode. The Portland Trailblazers get some flexible pieces as they are in rebuild mode. And for me, I think that's going to be very important because, like I said, I think that Drew Holiday is going to be with the Blazers for a cup of coffee. You have teams like the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers who missed out on getting Damian Lillard. But I'll tell you like this, I would not surprise me to see either the Sixers or the Heat try to make a play at Drew Holiday at some point this season, especially the Sixers, because the Sixers need to get James Harden up out of there. Because at the end of the day, whereas Portland made sure that Damian Lillard wasn't going to be a distraction, James Harden's about to be a distraction. And we've seen this before when he was with the Nets and also when he was with the Houston Rockets. So Philly's going to have a problem on their hands. They got to make a move. It wouldn't surprise me to see the Sixers try to get Drew Holiday to come to Philadelphia to play with Joel Embiid, and that would be big, a real good move for the big man in Philly. Same thing with Miami. You figure a lot of Damian, that was a place that was on Damian Lillard's at the top of his list. It didn't work out. I thought it was going to be a long shot for Miami from the jump because whereas this was a three-team deal to get Damian Lillard to Milwaukee, I really thought Miami was probably going to need four teams to make it work because the Heat simply did not have the assets for what the Trailblazers were looking for. In this scenario, it still would not surprise me to see Miami go out there and make a trade for a veteran point guard like Drew Holiday to get him into the fold. Remember, this team made the finals back in 2020. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals in each of the last 2 years, and it's all about trying to put pieces around Jimmy Butler as the Heat are trying to go out there and win a championship. Also, maybe a team like the Boston Celtics, now that Drew Holiday's in the West, maybe they go out there and try to make a move for him. I think Boston could be served getting themselves a floor general in the mode of a Drew Holiday to play off of, both Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, and then of course they brought in Kristaps Porzingis to the mix as well. And of course, I guarantee you, Drew Holiday wouldn't mind trying to come back to the East and try to beat the Bucks as far as getting out of that conference and to the NBA Finals. So I think the Milwaukee Bucks, the spotlight's going to be on them, and I think this is keeping with the trend in recent years in the NBA as far as those teams at the top, like obviously there's a huge gap between the pretenders and the contenders. And I think Milwaukee was already a contender. So this like widens that gap, if you will, between the Bucks and some other teams. But they're definitely at the top of that list as far as teams that are going to be expected to contend for the NBA championship. I'm not going to sit up there and write the Bucks in right now to be NBA champions because we're talking about three guys at the top of that lean team as far as the stars go that have, an injury history. We're talking about Dame the last couple of years in Portland, Giannis the last couple of years in Milwaukee, and of course Chris Middleton the last couple of years in Milwaukee as well. So we're not going to sit up there. At least I'm not going to sit up there and pencil in the Bucks as a championship team. But I think for sure they're definitely going to be in that mix. And for Damian Lillard, I think as he leaves Portland, he's in that conversation with the likes of Clyde Drexler and maybe Bill Walton as far as being the greatest players in Trailblazers franchise history. I'll tell you one thing, he's definitely one of the greatest scorers that franchise has ever seen. And I think the people of Portland, and this is just me speaking hypothetically from the outside, I think they will appreciate that when Dame played, he left it all out there. There were no ifs, ands, or buts. I think if you sat down and watched the Blazers game, if you paid admission to watch Damian Lillard play while wearing a Blazers uniform, you knew that you were going to get top-notch effort on a nightly basis. Obviously, things changed, several years ago when they lost LaMarcus Aldridge in free agency to the Spurs. Wes Matthews left that year. Nicholas Batum left, and before that, the Blazers did have a very solid team, one of the top-tier teams in the Western Conference. But Dame stayed. And he was a guy, he was a scorer. He's another one of those guys, a shooting guard in a point guard's body. But he went out there and made it work. Now it's going to be interesting to see going forward how that works for him in Milwaukee, playing with Giannis. They can't have as much ISO for Dame as they did in Milwaukee. I mean, pardon me, in Portland to make things work in Milwaukee. It's got to be more about ball movement because there's too many guys for the Bucks that definitely need the ball in their hands. Also, another caveat: Terry Stotts, the longtime head coach for Lillard in Portland, is now an assistant coach under Adrian Griffin with the Milwaukee Bucks. And for me, I think that sweetens the pot a little bit, if you will, as far as getting Lillard to Milwaukee, getting him on board, because he was a big supporter of Terry Stotts, and he wasn't thrilled when Stotts was fired several years ago. But nonetheless, I think that's going to bridge the gap for new first year head coach Adrian Griffin and Lillard, because if he needs to try to find a way to get through to Lillard or see what makes Lillard go or not, obviously he can lean on Terry Stotts in the same way that Lillard can lean on Stotts to bridge that gap, if you will, as he's going to learn the style of his new head coach, Adrian Griffin. Nonetheless, this was a shocker. It wasn't a shocker that Damian Lillard got traded. I think it was a shocker to the team that he went. The Bucks are all in. The Bucks are all in on trying to keep their superstar Giannis happy, and I think they did that today. And like I said before, this was a win-win for all teams involved. And I think it could be a bigger win once Portland trades Drew Holiday, and depending on who they get back for him. But like I said, Drew Holiday is not going to be in Portland for a very long time. He's going to be a coveted guy on the trade market between now and the trade deadline at come February. But nonetheless, a big day for the NBA, just on the heels of the start of training camp. So let's see how things work out for Lillard in Milwaukee. Let's see how things work out for the new look Blazers as they go forward, and the same thing for the new look Suns. But nonetheless, a superstar in the NBA is on the move. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.